Hello learners, welcome to this video lesson. Today we are going to discuss another topic from your course. Today's discussion topic is attitude and its educational implications. Before starting our discussion, let me to introduce myself. I, Dr. Niradhar De, Associate Professor, School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, welcome you all to this video lesson. Friends, as you know that we are discussing one of the core course of your BA General program as per CBCS pattern. The course code is BESC 131 and the course title is Education, Concept, Nature and Perspectives. From that course, presently we are in the 16th module. The title of this module is Understanding Socio-Psychological Attributes, and in this module 6 important lessons are there. The lessons are like intelligence and its educational implication, aptitude, creativity, motivation and its educational implications, and further attitude and its educational implications. Already we have discussed the 4 different lessons, that is the different socio-psychological attributes just like intelligence, aptitude, creativity and motivation. And today is the 5th lesson from this module, that is an attitude, the concept of attitude and the factors of forming attitude, the characteristics of attitude and at the same time educational implications of attitude as one of the socio-psychological attribute. And in our next lesson, we will be discussing another topic, another attribute, that is personality and its educational implications. Friends, now let us focus upon our today's lesson, that is attitude and its educational implications. Before starting our discussion, let me to focus upon some of the learning outcomes, and I am very much hopeful that after going through this video lesson and the content which is given in the 16th module of your course, you will be able to, relating to attitude, you will be able to name different socio-psychological attributes of the children. Further, you will be able to explain the concept and characteristics of attitude as a socio-psychological attribute. Further, you will be able to describe the relationships among beliefs, values and attitude, how it is related with each other, how beliefs and values contribute for forming attitude. And further, you will be able to explain the factors of attitude formation. What are the different factors are there that really contribute, that really influence for developing and forming attitude of a person. And further, you will be able to discuss educational implications of attitude as a socio-psychological attribute. So, in different educational process, in educational scenario, in educational system, you can use attitude. So, that is why the educational use of attitude is also one of the learning outcomes from this lesson. Now, let us recapitulate that we have already discussed in our earlier lessons relating to different attributes, just like the different sociological attributes, socio-psychological attributes are intelligence, aptitude, creativity, motivation, attitude and personality. These are also called as the mental trait, different mental trait, and these mental trait can be measured and it can be quantified also, and further it can be described so far as the behavioral characteristics of a person is concerned. Okay? We can express intelligence in terms of quality and further we can analyze it also. Accordingly, we can also measure aptitude of a person, the hidden quality, the potential abilities of a person, and accordingly we can provide the person, provide the child facilities for you can say working on one's aptitude. And for the creativity, we can also find out that what special quality, what innovative ideas are with the person, with the children, with the students. Then accordingly, how we should support for developing creativity and for doing or for creating certain new things, certain new innovations. And further motivation. Motivation is one of the very important attribute or traits so far as you can say learners and students behavior is concerned. In our education system, being a teacher, we always motivate the students, we always motivate the learners. Okay. So, that is why motivation is also another socio-psychological attribute that already we have discussed. And further, today we are going to discuss attitude. So, how positive attitudes should be formed, and what is the contribution of attitude, and what are the characteristics of attitude we will discuss, and what is the use of attitude so far as teaching learning process is concerned, so far as our educational discourses are concerned. And further, in our next lesson we will be discussing personality. Okay. So, personality is also one of the mental trait. Personality is one of the socio-psychological attribute. So, whatever we do in different situations, it also exhibit our personality. Okay. Individual is having different types of personality. So, here we will try to understand that what are the different types of personality and what is the theories of personality, and further how these personality patterns are used by the individual, by the learner, by the student for coping themselves, for behaving themselves, for adjusting themselves in different situations. So, already we have discussed some of the attribute, and presently we are also discussing the other other attributes. Now, let us focus upon our today's lesson. First of all, the concept of attitude. What is the concept of it? Friends, attitude is an acquired predisposition to respond to certain objects, events, things ranging from favorable to unfavorable. Try to understand. First of all, a question comes to our mind that attitude is inborn, attitude is inherited, or it is acquired, or it is environmental. What is the factor that contribute for developing the attitude? Okay. So, here as I have said in the first point that attitude is an acquired predisposition. Acquired, that means we can develop attitude, it is not inborn, rather by observing the situation we can acquire it, it is environmental. That means what we observe in our family, what we observe in our school, what we observe in our workplace, where we involve ourselves in world of work, what we observe from our society, from our community, when we come contact with the people and developing a type of interaction with them, we also develop a type of attitude. So, that is why it is an acquired predisposition. Okay. So, we can acquire it. It is not true that we born with certain attitude, rather attitude are environmental, situational. So, that is why we learn attitude, then accordingly we practice it. Then another important aspect is attitude on what? Friends, here attitude are on certain objects that we use in our day-to-day life. Further, attitude on different events, different situations, what happens in our society. Okay. And further, attitude may be favorable and it may be unfavorable also. Many a time our attitude may be positive, may be favorable, and many a time it may be negative, it may be unfavorable. So, in this society, in this world, when you come contact with people, you must have observed that many people are having a type of favorable attitude, whereas many people will find that they have a type of unfavorable attitude, a type of negative attitude. So, it may go in both the direction, it goes in both the direction, it may be in favorable direction, that is the positive side, and unfavorable direction, that is the negative side. Further, attitude can be explained in cognitive, affective and psychomotor terms. In my earlier lessons, I have already discussed that what is cognitive, what is affective, and what is psychomotor domain. Cognitive domain is related with our mental processes, our knowledge, our understanding, our application, our skill, analysis, synthesis, critical analysis, critical reflection. Okay? When we involve ourselves to understand the things, then accordingly to give our expression. Okay? So, highly we use the cognitive skills. And for the affective domain, which is related to our feeling, related to our attitude, relating to our heart, relating to our realization. Okay. So, with the cognitive domain, there is very much important to achieve or to practice the affective domain also. And another important thing is the psychomotor. It means to acquire certain skill, hands-on activities, okay, to acquire certain motor skill, to develop certain motor skill. So, that is why to understand about attitude, attitude covers both cognitive, affective as well as the psychomotor domain. That means, by exhibiting or by practicing a right attitude, we can acquire knowledge, we can develop our comprehension and understanding, and at the same time we also try to realize it, and we develop our feeling aspect, our emotion in it, we put our emotion in it, and at the same time we also learn many skills. Further, attitude of a person towards an object or an event or a thing may vary from time to time and may be expressed in positive or negative terms. So, you can say that there is the attitude is permanent. Okay. Attitude is not at all permanent. You must have observed that individual's attitude, person's attitude vary from situation to situation, time to time. Okay. So, that is why attitude is not stagnant, rather it is ever flexible and ever dynamic, and it may goes in two directions, in both the direction, both positive as well as negative. We many times say that a person is having very positive attitude towards certain idea, towards certain situation, towards certain you can say certain ideas, you can say, and many a time you also say that a group of people or a particular person is having very negative attitude towards schooling system, towards you can say practicing certain things, towards certain ideas, certain ideology. Okay. So, it may be in both the direction, and attitude may be changed also. It may be a positive attitude may be changed to negative, and many a time an unfavorable attitude in the passage of time may be changed to a favorable attitude. Further, attitude can also be measured and quantified with the help of attitude scale. So, how do we measure attitude? So, for measuring attitude, we can use a type of attitude scale. Okay. By using the attitude scale, we can quantify the attitude, and accordingly we can say that whether attitude is favorable or unfavorable, whether the attitude is positive or negative. So, what score should be there in the attitude scale, that will be the level, and the score beyond or above that level is considered as the positive attitude, and below that level is considered as the negative attitude. It depends upon the nature of the scale, and it depends upon this process of standardization and the norms that has been developed in the attitude scale. Further, to focus upon some of the important aspect about the characteristics of attitude, I can say that attitude are developed. Okay. So, we can develop our attitude, it can be acquired by individuals over a period of time. It is not present in individual at the time of birth. So, that is why it is not inherited, it is not hereditary, rather it is environmental. As example, respect for members in the family is learned by observing behavior of other members in the family. So, how do you can say develop the positive behavior, the favorable behavior, the desirable behavior? That is possible when we observe the things in your family. Okay. So, that is why we can say that attitude are developed. Further, attitude is not in vacuum, but towards an object, person, event and thing. So, we have attitude towards certain things. We have our one attitude, it may be positive or negative, it may be favorable or unfavorable towards a person, towards certain object, towards certain event, towards certain situation. Okay. And for the attitude of a person range from positive to negative remains relatively permanent and gradually changes. That is, I like learning through online mode. So, many a time earlier online learning was not there. We are very much acquainted with offline learning, but here you see how person change their attitude. At the present time, you all are going through Swayamprabha TV channel and you are also pursuing the MOOCs, massive open online courses. So, you have developed a type of positive attitude towards blended learning or towards practicing online learning. So, that is why attitude of a person, it also changes from positive to negative many a time and from negative to positive many a time. Further, attitude has motivational properties. Just like I love engaging myself in changing academic tasks. So, many a time learners and students get motivation from their teacher, from their schooling practices, okay. And from there they get a type of inspiration, they get a type of positive attitude and they try to practice it, translate it in their life. So, friends, these are the some of the characteristics of attitude, and further now let me to establish a type of relationship among the three different attributes or aspects. They are called as the beliefs, values and attitude. How beliefs, values and attitudes are interlinked with each other. Friends, I can say that attitude is a broader aspect. Beliefs helps to develop attitude, and at the same time our own values, our own value system, our own value standard, that also helps for developing a type of attitude. So, that is why beliefs and values are included in attitude. Attitude is a very large canvas, you can say. Within attitude, a value system is there and we have our personal beliefs also. So, this is the relationship between beliefs, values and attitude. Further, to discuss it minutely, I can say that the relationship among beliefs, values and attitudes are like this. An attitude is closely related to one's beliefs and values. Okay? So, formation of attitudes are happen from our beliefs, from our ideas and from our value system. Further, we can say that beliefs are mostly personal in nature and develop through our personal experiences. Okay? So, beliefs are very personal in nature, because if I will give the example, let our religious practice is our belief. We practice a religion because of our belief, and that belief also further helps for developing a type of attitude. Let attitude to serve others, we also learn it from the religion. Attitude to help others, we also learn it from the religion. So, that is why beliefs is quite personal in nature, but from beliefs we also develop certain attitude. Further, one's spiritual, religious, political, intellectual and social beliefs are mostly based upon one's personal understanding and experiences. Try to understand our spiritual belief. It may be my spiritual belief is something different than others, my religious belief is something different than others, my political belief is something different than others, my social belief is also something different than others, but it also helps for developing attitude, but it is quite personal in nature. Further, beliefs are abstract and subjective in nature, as they depend upon one's personal judgment and disposition, such as one's judgment on certain political events in the country, one's judgment on certain religious belief. It is quite personal. So, that is why it is very much abstract in nature and subjective in nature. You cannot say that it is very much objective. If it is objective, then there is no changes from person to person, from beliefs to beliefs. So, when there is different beliefs and when there is variations in beliefs, then we can say that it is abstract and subjective in nature, but it helps for developing attitude. Further, to focus upon values. Values are beliefs that motivate or guide our attitude and actions in our life. Okay? So, values, our value system, just like honesty, happiness, truthfulness, freedom, equality, you can say beauty, harmony, happiness. So, these values, when we understand the practice of these values, and we also practice these values in our day to day life, in our job field, in our personal life, we also develop certain right attitude, certain favorable attitude. Okay? So, we practice certain common values, as I have already said, that honesty, freedom, equality, beauty, harmony, happiness, truthfulness, etc. Further, values cannot be measured objectively, scientifically and quantitatively. Rather, by using certain scale, using certain test, we can measure the values. And values are also very abstract in nature and subjective in nature, because my values may be different from others. Beliefs are included one's values. So, our personal belief is included in our values, and further values are included in our attitude, in developing attitude. Further, to establish more relationship among beliefs, values and attitude, I can say that one's attitude is also formed based on his or her beliefs and values. One's attitude may be his or her perception and outlooks towards different situations, ideas, objects and persons. So, what is my perception to someone? What is my perception to certain ideas, to certain object and to certain person, and even if to certain situation, to certain event. Okay. So, that is why by observing and by perceiving the things, we develop our attitude, our outlook, our political understanding. That also help for developing our attitude. And for the formation of attitude is based upon cognitive, affective and psychomotor domain. I have already discussed that it includes the mental operation, it includes our feeling and emotional aspect, and it also includes the skills that we acquire by doing the things. Okay? And further, it can be measured and quantified by using an attitude scale of values. I have already said that, for example, one's attitude towards school system, towards teacher, attitude towards different subjects, attitude towards assessment practices in the schools, attitude towards society, attitude towards involving in games and sports, towards peer and group learning, etc. can be measured and quantified by using an attitude scale. So, we can measure attitude in these aspects, and in education we also highly use this. Now, let us focus upon some of the very important factors that are responsible for forming attitude. Just like first, let me to focus upon the social learning. So, the social learning environment, that also helps us a lot. That is a very significant factor for developing attitude, for forming attitude. Just like in class, if I can give the example of classical conditioning. So, what is classical conditioning? So, here what we do in a classical conditioning, we observe the things, then accordingly we also involve ourselves in a type of bonding. Okay. So, that means there is a relationship, a connection between a stimulus and response, and whenever we get a positive response, we develop a type of attitude, and when we get a negative response, we also develop a type of attitude that further we do not do this. Okay. A good experience helps us to practice that further, to develop right attitude, and bad experience, horrible experience, that also helps us not to practice further. Then instrumental conditioning, many a time we become instrumental We become very much mechanical in doing the things in our society by observing the things. Okay, so that means we have developed certain attitudes spontaneously and we use it mechanically and instrumentally. Further, observational learning, we observe many things in our society, in our home, in school, in the community, and further we try to practice these things in our schooling process, even if in our day-to-day life. Further, the other factors responsible for attitude formations are, I can focus upon two important other factors that's called as the cultural factor and personality factor. Friends, we live in a society, we practice our culture, we understand and we involve ourselves in understanding many things in our culture. Okay, our cultural practices, it teaches us that how to behave other, how to speak with other, and how to involve ourselves in different, you can say, social customs and traditions. Okay, so that's why cultural factor also helps us for developing a type of right attitude. And for the personality factor, every individual is having a different type of personality. So that's why our personality helps us for developing right attitude. I can say that attitude which are in accordance with our personality are acquired easily. People with high intelligence and literacy level are critical, reserved, skeptical and having good sense of humor. So this is somehow related with our personality. Okay, so that's why personality is also a factor for forming attitude. Now friends, let us focus upon some of the educational implications. First of all, for developing favorable and positive attitude, one should be ready to learn. So readiness to learn is one of the educational implications of attitude. Further, one should accept one's criticism for developing certain right attitude. Okay, so this is also another educational implication. Then acceptance and tolerance. Okay, acceptance in different situation and to develop a sense of tolerance. Okay, so that if you develop tolerance and you have the quality of acceptance, then definitely you can develop good attitude for doing your work. So this is also one of the educational implication. Then socialization, the process of socialization also helps us for developing right attitude. Then accordingly readiness to change, whether you are able to change, able to accept the change or not, whether you are ready to accept the change or not. So I was talking earlier that from a face-to-face learning situation, now we have entered in an online learning situation. So this is because we have accepted that change. Then observation, the much you experience, the much you observe from different situations, then definitely you learn many things. Then further inquiry, explore and practice are the other things that also you can say educational implications of attitude. That means one should have the attitude of inquiring the new things, to getting the novelty and to practicing it also. Further, one should involve for exploring new things so that one can also develop good attitude. So these are the certain educational implications of attitude. Now let us recapitulate and focus upon some of the important questions, and I am very much hopeful that after going through this video lesson and the part content which is included in the module 16th of your course relating to attitude, you will be able to answer these questions. I am just going through these questions, definitely you will practice it. The questions are: what are the different socio-psychological attributes? Explain the concept of attitude as a socio-psychological attribute. Further, describe characteristics of attitude. Then discuss the relationship among beliefs, values and attitude. So how these three attributes are related with each other, how beliefs and values helps for developing a type of positive and constructive attitude. The other questions are: analyze the factors of attitude formation, how attitude are formed, you will be able to analyze it and discuss educational implication of attitude as a socio-psychological attribute. So, how you can attitude as an attribute in your day-to-day life, in your school life, in your professional life. Friends, in our next lesson, we will discuss personality as an attribute, what is the concept of personality, and what is the educational implication of personality, how you can use personality in your day-to-day life as well as in your professional life. Thank you.